All right. Apologize for the delays. We've had some technical difficulty. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session, International Markets of Opportunity, Exporting Your Products and Services to Africa. I am Alice Ancona, Senior Vice President and CEO of the World Trade Center Miami. The World Trade Center Miami is the organizer of this America's Food and Beverage Show. For those attending the session, please type your questions onto the chat box in the bottom of the screen, and we will address all questions at the end of the session. It is now my pleasure to introduce Desmond Alufohai, our moderator for this panel. Desmond is Division Director for the Protocol and International Affairs Division at Miami International Airport, Miami Dade Aviation Department. Desmond is also a member of the South Florida District Export Council, which is a private sector group which supports the U.S. Department of Commerce's efforts to promote U.S. exports. And he is also a member of the World Trade Center Miami's Board of Directors. Joining us on the panel from USDA is Laura Geller, a Senior Agricultural Attaché, and Ryan Scott, Agricultural Counselor. Desmond, the session is yours. Thank you.
And so I'm very grateful for inviting me and for focusing on Africa. So if you're just joining us, welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. I think these global platforms have been able to bring all of us together despite the disruptions caused by COVID-19, and I hope you are all keeping very, very safe. So for me, it's always a pleasure, and I'm glad that the World Trade Center Miami is focusing on Africa. Well, why Africa? Well, we all know that Africa is truly the next frontier, and for those of you who may not be aware, just last year, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area came into force, and prior to that, Africa has been organized in regional markets. And when I do the workshop on opportunities in the Africa, I think since ECOWAS in 1975 has been organized in regional viable economic markets. So I just wanted you to see the range of the regional, I think there are 8 of them, ranging from, like I said, West Africa, ECOWAS in West Africa, all the way to East Africa. And the panelists that we have assembled today will touch on some of the opportunities, not just Africa, but also in some of the regions, because Africa is not a country, Africa is a continent. So when you're looking to opportunities in Africa, you need to decide whether to go regionally or whether to go into a specific country. Even when you decide to go into a specific country, you have to decide whether to go into a particular city. Take my home country, Nigeria, for instance, a country of 200 million inhabitants. When you look at the market in Nigeria of 200 million people, you have northern part of Nigeria, which is completely different southern part of Nigeria, not just because of the dynamics in geography, but also in terms of the sectors. So we have very, very experienced panel of great trade people today. And so without further ado, I thank you all for joining us, for taking interest in learning a little bit more about Africa today. I have often said, and again, this is another platform to remind everyone, we in the United States of America were really already late because the Europeans are already in Africa. we keep singing this song. Opportunities are available. They love American products, and this is one more opportunity for us to showcase the opportunities that is in Africa for you. And so let's dive in. We have two very distinguished members of our panel on this platform. And the first one I have the pleasure to present is Ms. Laura J. Geller. She is the Senior Agricultural Attaché in Southern Africa, USDA Foreign Agricultural Service, that's FAS, based in the embassy in Pretoria. If you go to South Africa, make sure you visit Pretoria and not just Cape Town or Johannesburg. Ms. Geller began her career with the Foreign Agricultural Service in 2007, working on agricultural assistance in Iraq and Afghanistan. Wow, those are hardship posts, Laura. And as a desk officer before transitioning to the Foreign Service in 2011. She served as a rice analyst in Washington from 2012 to 2013. Ms. Geller was the agricultural attaché in Brasilia, Brazil, from 2013 to 2017. And in 2017, she became the senior agricultural attaché in Pretoria, South Africa, covering 11 Southern Africa. And so bring your questions. She's very, very capable to point you to the right directions in that region. Ms. Geller holds a master's degree in international development from the University of Pittsburgh and a bachelor's in science of political science from Ohio University. She was born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio, but now she calls Seattle home. I thought you called South Africa home, where she and her husband's family resides. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I present Miss Laura.
Well, thank you so much, Desmond, for that very kind introduction. I think I can speak for all of us when I say we wish we could be there in person. I know for the past 3 years, we have recruited buyers here in South Africa and in the region to go to Miami to meet face to face. And, you know, it's not the same this year, but we make do. So thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Just bear with me while I share my screen here. Okay, great. So today I'm going to talk specifically about South Africa, but we do cover the whole region of Southern Africa. Let's see. There we go. So first I'll just kind of go broad and talk about USDA in Southern Africa. Myself, I'm based here at the U.S. Embassy, as Desmond said, in Pretoria. We have our Office of Agricultural Affairs, which is part of the Foreign Agriculture Service, and we also have the Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, or APHIS, based here in Pretoria as well. As you can see from the map, FAS covers 11 countries in Southern Africa, from Angola on down, minus Malawi, and we do a variety of work across the region. We have 3 American officers here in Pretoria, and 7 local staff. So we have a good sized staff to help meet your needs. And then we also have staff in Angola and Mozambique as well. So I'm just going to start big and talk a little bit about the Foreign Agricultural Service and kind of what we do on a broad scale. And then I'll go down into kind of you know, what the market is in South Africa, the economics, the trade arrangements, and then we'll talk a little bit about the challenges and the opportunities here in South Africa. And of course, I'm happy to answer questions about other countries as well. From a broad scale, FAS's mission is to link U.S. farmers to the world. And we do this in 4 key ways: trade policy, data and analysis, trade promotion, and food security. So trade policy is a big part of what we do overseas. FAS officers advocate for trade policies in the countries we cover to promote free, fair, and reciprocal trade. This includes addressing trade barriers, facilitating market access requests, and enhancing high-level communications bilaterally. Sorry. Doing market analysis market analysis and data is kind of what I consider our bread and butter. FAS offices abroad research and write over 2,000 publicly available reports per year. And these range from commodity analysis to changes in agricultural policy to market sector reports. And all of them can be found on our Global Agricultural Information Network, where you can search by country, commodity, or topic. And I'll have a link at the end of the presentation to that site. So hand in hand with our reporting are our trade promotion and assistance programs, and we have many of them. So I'm just going to give some examples here, but there are many of them. So some examples would be like agricultural trade missions, recruiting buyers for USDA endorsed shows like the America's Food and Beverage Show, trade financing, and just facilitating introductions between US exporters and potential buyers. And lastly, but of course, certainly not least, are food security and trade capacity building programs. Here in Southern Africa, we're very honored to have one of our flagship programs, USDA's McGovern-Dole School Feeding Program, which recognizes the important role that nutrition plays in learning, especially in the most food insecure countries. We also have Cochrane and Borlaug fellowship programs that create linkages between agricultural professionals and the US. And our Food for Progress programs help build trade capacity in low-income countries. So that's kind of the broad overview of the Foreign Agricultural Service. Now, just looking at South Africa specifically, South Africa has a population of 59 million people, of which about 70% are considered middle class. So that said, it's estimated that only about 10 to 20 million people are formally active in the economy. Its 2020 GDP estimate is $282 billion. Sorry, and I have a typo on the slide there. Apologies for that. It's $282 billion, which makes it the 41st largest economy globally and the second largest economy in Africa after Nigeria. The currency is the South African rand, which is currently trading at about 16.32 to $1 US. The depreciation of the rand over the last 2 years has really impacted consumers' purchasing power. So that's been an issue. And in addition, unemployment is officially at 30.1%, with nearly a third of adults out of work. This high rate of unemployment has contributed to South Africa's status as the country with the most unequal distribution of wealth, which is a real challenge. But there you can see in the pictures, Desmond noted not to miss Pretoria when you come to South Africa, and there's the beautiful union buildings there, center stage. So moving into just the ag sector to get a better sense of agriculture in South Africa. As you can see by this map, depending on how you're viewing this presentation, the map lays out, where different products are grown, and you can see there's grains and sugar and vegetables and cattle and sheep and livestock and wine. It's a highly, highly, highly diversified agricultural sector. South Africa is self-sufficient in most ag commodities, with the notable exception of wheat and rice. There are approximately 40,000 commercial farmers and over 200,000 small or emerging farmers, with over 2 million subsistence farmers. And South Africa is one of the world's top 30 agricultural producers and the largest ag exporter on the continent. Ag exports range from wine and citrus to wool and sugarcane and macadamia nuts and corn. They supply a lot of food in the region and across the globe. And lastly, South Africa is a leader in biotechnology and science. The overwhelming majority of their cotton, corn, and soybeans are genetically engineered, or GE is the acronym. And there are very few restrictions on the imports of GE products, which makes it a good opportunity for products with those ingredients. So before we get into the details of the food and beverage market, I just want to briefly explain the trade relationships South Africa has with other economies. And I know that this will probably be covered in other sessions, so I'll try and keep this short. But South Africa is a member of the Southern Africa Development Community, which I have there on the map. As you can see, it's Congo on down. In addition, South Africa is part of SACU, the Southern African Customs Union, with its neighbors Namibia, Botswana, Lesotho, and Eswatini, which was formerly Swaziland. And I've tried to highlight that on the map as well, the SACU countries. SACU benefits from duty-free trade, and it was established in 1910, so it is the oldest customs union in the world, which I thought was very interesting. And then also South Africa has a free trade agreement with the European Union, which allows certain goods to enter duty-free both ways. And like many countries in Africa, South Africa benefits from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or as we call it, AGOA, which allows certain products to enter the United States duty-free. For example, South African wine, citrus, and macadamia nuts all benefit from AGOA in trade with the United States. SACU has a preferential trade agreement with the countries in Mercosur, including Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. And I put on there coming soon, the AFCFTA. And I think the next session will be covering this. So I'll just suffice it to say is that South Africa is a part of the AFCFTA. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done on establishing the trade terms, but we expect it'll create opportunities when it comes into force. Okay, so now that you have some of the trade background, you can really understand the market overview. And as you can see from this graph that I have based on 2019 data, the EU really dominates South African imports in the food and beverage sector. I know it's hard to see, but the EU has a 28% market share. And if you look at Eswatini and Namibia, the two SACU countries and South Africa's neighbors, they hold 15% combined of the import market share. So you can see how those trade preferences and those trade agreements really make a difference when it comes to importing products into South Africa. So in 2019, South Africa's imports of agricultural products were valued at $6.4 billion US, and the US captured 5% of that market. South Africa has over 1,800 food production companies, dominated by 10 major companies. This well-developed agro-processing sector creates opportunities for imports of both commodities and food ingredients. And not only does South Africa have a well-developed food processing sector, but South African retail sales are expanding across the borders with 7 major retail chains, which makes South Africa a good gateway into the region. And at the heart of the retail sector is the consumer, of course. Several key trends are driving expansion. The South African consumer is generally health conscious and values convenience. They like ready-made products. Online sales have spiked against the backdrop of the pandemic, but it's been a rising trend, and we expect the use of online sales and delivery services will continue. Retailers are also trending toward private label and house brands to give the consumer more value for their money. So, excuse me. So there are, however, some challenges in the food and beverage sector. First, as noted in the ag overview slide, there's competition from well-developed local producers and agro-processors. South Africans feel strongly about buying locally and look for the Made in South Africa stamp on products. Second, there is a distinct trade disadvantage for U.S. products, as countries with free trade arrangements are more competitive in the market, as we saw in 2 slides ago. And third, the South African consumer is very price sensitive. While a company may have an amazing product, it can be difficult for U.S. exporters to sell the product at a price point that makes sense in the market. In addition, with retailers focusing on house brands and private labels, there's limited shelf space for new products. South Africans also have a strong brand loyalty for South African products that they know and have a long history with. And for any of you that have been to South Africa, you'll know certain products like Mrs. Ball's chutney and different things like that are very strong in the South African psyche. So, and lastly, the pandemic has created market uncertainty across the globe, and South Africa is no exception. Continued currency depreciation and job losses put some imported products out of reach for the average South African. In addition, any more hard lockdowns by the South African government, which limit movement, reduce store and restaurant hours, and ban the sale of alcohol and cigarettes, could put further strain on the economy. So it's not all bad news. There are opportunities in the South African market for U.S. products. As an English-speaking country, it's easy for U.S. companies to communicate with South African partners and build those key relationships they need. With a developed market economy and infrastructure, products can be distributed with relative ease. The large retailers have expanded into other countries, as I noted before, giving successful U.S. products the potential for an even wider audience. The South African consumer is sophisticated and values quality products. Combined with a growing middle class, the consumer base is willing to try new products within their price range. And as I stated before, as a biotech leader on the continent, South Africa has embraced products using technology. So while there is a market for the free from products, South African consumers are generally accepting of GE products and ingredients. Retailers have established online platforms for delivery service, and high-end consumers are digitally savvy. So it's a great way to market. It's a great way to get your products into the minds and hands of consumers. And the convenience of ordering food and beverages online is important to African consumers, and they use things like Uber Eats and different retailer delivery services. And we expect that to continue. So while the pandemic has been devastating, it has pushed retailers to innovate and adapt to create a better, safer shopping experience for consumers. Online sales, food delivery services, and virtual meetings are all part of our new normal, which can give U.S. products an edge that they didn't have before. So just based on 2019 data, we believe that the best market prospects in South Africa are for snacks, prepared foods, food ingredients, whiskeys and bourbons, almonds and nuts, and sauces and condiments. And one thing that we've seen, the growth in the private label, so commodities that can go into private label also have some degree of success as well. So what are the keys for success in the South African market? First off, contact FAS Pretoria. Call us, send us an email. We can help you understand the market for your product, introduce you to potential importers, and provide important information. Second, do your market research. While we can provide a lot of general market information, doing the research on your specific product in advance of the meeting with importers is important. Third, establish good relationships. South Africans value knowing their partners well. Pre-pandemic, we would have encouraged you to come and meet your partners in person, but now virtual calls and video conferencing will help you get to know them better. Fourth, choose a knowledgeable importer that is registered with the South African Revenue Service, SARS, because at the end of the day, the success of your transaction depends on the importer's ability to work through the government processes. And finally, keep up your relationship with the importer or distributor after the sale. So in closing, please check out our market sector reports. This is just a tiny fraction of what's available online in our exporter guide, retail sector report, food service report, and food ingredients report. And please feel free to contact our office anytime with questions. Thank you so much. I'll hand it back now.
Thank you so much, Ms. Laura. And if it wasn't for COVID, I think you have convinced me to just buy my ticket and fly directly to South Africa. Although we in Miami, we still have a grudge to pick because South African Airways left us and moved to Washington and Atlanta. So we're still looking forward to that direct flight from Joburg to Cape Town to Miami. So thank you so much for that very insightful presentation. For those of you just joining us, thank you so much. We welcome you to the 24th Annual America's Food and Beverage Show. This is our very first virtual show, and so far it has been interesting, it has been educational, and it has been a new experience for all of us. Please get ready for questions. Ms. Laura will still be with us. Please make sure you populate the chat room for any questions that you may have, and we continue to appreciate your indulgence in staying with us in this session. Our second and final speaker for this session is Mr. Ryan R. Scott. So we're leaving SADC now and we're going to EAC, East African Community. Arriving, he's the Agricultural Counselor for USDA, U.S. Embassy in Nairobi, Kenya. Arriving in October 2020, Mr. Scott is the USDA Agricultural Counselor at U.S. Embassy in Kenya, covering the neighboring countries, including Tanzania, Malawi, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi. I'm quite sure Mr. Ryan spent some time in Lake Tanganyika at some point when he's in Burundi. By the way, Lake Tanganyika is the second deepest lake in the world. Very, very beautiful. So from 2017 to 2020, Mr. Scott served as the director of ATO in Shanghai, covering East China at the U.S. Consulate in Shanghai, and also Hubei province at the U.S. Consulate in Wuhan. Previously, Mr. Ryan worked as the regional agricultural attaché for two regional offices of agricultural affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Accra, Ghana, and at the U.S. Consulate in Lagos, Nigeria. So I'm quite sure he can also answer any questions you may have for ECOWAS region or for West Africa. From 2010 to 2014, Ryan was an agricultural attaché at the Office of Agricultural Affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Beijing, China. Before joining Foreign Service, Mr. Ryan served 10 years as a civil servant with different USDA agencies throughout the United States. Mr. Scott was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He obtained his Bachelor's of Science degree in agricultural business with a concentration in economics from the University of Virginia State. His Master's of Arts degree in International Commerce and Policy Programs was earned at George Mason University, the GMU. He and his wife, Carrie, have 4 school-age children. Distinguished guests, moving now from the south to the east, I present Mr. Scott.
Well, good morning, good afternoon to all. I hope everyone is able to hear me loud and clear. It is a pleasure to greet you today in your respective time zones. Can I have some assistance with putting on the presentation on the screen, please?
Bear with us, there's a delay, so it will take a few seconds for the presentation to load.
Thank you.
For any of you visiting Ryan in Nairobi, make sure definitely, absolutely ask him to take you to the Carnival restaurant, please. That's a must.
Ryan, your presentation is now available.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you very much to moderator and to Laura for the discussion and two very good presentations. Next slide, please. FAS Nairobi covers 6 countries as mentioned earlier. We are an 8-member team. One of the team members is located in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Of course, our office partners with all of USDA agencies. The products that we look at are the bulk commodities, wheat, cereals, pulses, the intermediate products, such as whey protein, soy-based food ingredients, soybean oil, and then the consumer-oriented high-value products, nuts, dairy products, snack foods, and condiments. Now, for those that may be familiar with the Foreign Agricultural Service and our game reporting system, and also our trade data analysis, we call that the BICO report. B for bulk commodities, I for intermediate products, C for consumer-oriented products. Thank you. Next slide. So, as Laura mentioned in her presentation, FAS is how do we do our job overseas? Well, we focus quite a bit on trade policy, market development, and export assistance, reporting and analysis of trade data, and also trade capacity building and food security. Next slide, please. Now, this map, on the right photo side, you will see countries that we cover. The shaded areas, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, but also on the left part, you'll see Rwanda, Burundi, and at the bottom of Tanzania, you'll see Malawi. So that is FAS Nairobi's area of coverage. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. COVID has had a major impact across the world, of course. Although Kenya is the largest economy in East Africa, the current COVID situation and other factors that contribute to the economy have caused a short decline in the growth rate of its GDP growth rate, and it also contributes to the 5.5 inflation rate. The main imports from the U.S. to Kenya are wheat, tree nuts, condiments and sauces, specialized food ingredients, distilled spirits, wine, and more bovine genetics. Next slide, please. Thank you. There are 4 top things about Kenya, and I started with the word sensational. So sensational sports in terms of runners, sensational sunshine, sensational safaris, and also sensational service mobile payment system through e-commerce. It's called M-Pesa. Next slide, please. So Kenya's agriculture, their domestic production, a lot of that is exported abroad. That's coffee and tea, cut flowers, dairy products, livestock, grain and feed. That's kept locally. but it's so much more that's grown domestically that is either for Kenya or neighboring countries. But the largest exports of Kenya is coffee and tea, cut flowers, and now more and more tree nuts if you look at the latest trade statistics. Next slide, please. Okay. So thank you. The existing trade situation. There is a $73 million trade imbalance between the United States and Kenya. The U.S. imported $126.2 million worth of Kenyan goods in 2019, while the U.S. only exported $53.2 million to Kenya in that same year. Well, we hope to address some of those during the current free trade agreement discussions with Kenya. That said, we do see significant opportunities across the BICO categories, the bulk, intermediate, consumer-oriented products that I mentioned earlier. We see significant opportunities for those products across Kenya's rising retail sector, hotels, restaurants, and institutions, and also its well-developed port system in Mombasa. Now, I should also mention there are a few attractions in terms of hotels, Radisson Blu, Kempinski. There's more and more food chains, KFC, Domino's, Cold Stone, Pizza Hut, Subway, many Western restaurants, things that those who travel to the United States, or even individuals such as myself as expats, want to taste the home. These are places these and many more are places that we go to. Next slide, please. These are photos. Seeing is believing. So these are photos that we added to the presentation just for the sake of discussion. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then this is more capturing the modern retail sector and commercial areas within Nairobi. Next slide, please. Now, those same photos that we just showed can be easily applicable to parts of Tanzania, particularly Dar es Salaam. So with Tanzania standing on its own accord, there's a growing GDP rate, as you can see, between 5% and 6%, and a relatively low inflation rate, relatively speaking, 3.1% as of September 2020. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, three things about Tanzania: tree nuts, tanzanite, and the topography. You can see the safaris also mentioned, photographed below. Next slide. Thank you. Now, the trade balance between the U.S. and Tanzania is a bit different than that from Kenya, where the U.S. Exports, food and agriculture exports to Tanzania reached 48 million in 2019, while imports from Tanzania to the United States totaled 24 million. So there's a bit of a different story there. I would like to mention right now, though, in 2020, when you look at trade data from January to August, in the next week or two, we'll have trade data available for the month of September. There's always a two-month lag delay with regard to trade data, but it was very interesting to see that there's been quite a bit of uptick on East African countries and what they export to the U.S. A lot of that has been coffee, tea, tree nuts, cut flowers, etc. Next slide, please. Yeah. So again, this is similar to the Kenya agricultural shot. We wanted to take another shot for Tanzania. A lot of domestic production, of course, is coffee, cashews, cotton, and also avocados. Next slide, please. Thank you. The East Africa, FAS Nairobi, one of our missions, in addition to capacity building, but relating to market development, is building relationships for our trade associations and our USDA stakeholders, specifically U.S. suppliers. We do that through trade shows, trade servicing, and providing technical assistance. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Now, there are some trade accelerators in the region, particularly for Kenya. The free trade agreement discussions are ongoing. FAS Nairobi is located in the financial hub of Kenya, and there are frequent flights to Kenya, and the official main language of transaction is English, so there's no language barrier there. Next slide, please. Challenges. Acceptance of GMO products are very challenging. We have recently been able to successfully get BT cotton in, a commercial shipment of BT cotton. There has been plantings of those cotton seeds, and the farmers are seeing the results to be very favorable and positive and for them on the commercial side. So we're hoping that can allow us to have more trade policy discussions on the acceptance of GMO products, but that is a very touchy sensitive topic here in East Africa. The second challenge, I would say, is unawareness, of changing important regulations and market knowledge of U.S. exporters. U.S. exporters, FAS, we try to stay up on the latest on all things. We try to stay up on the latest on all of the regulations, and we report them, but sometimes given domestic competition and some other matters of fact, we don't know of all of them. The last challenge, I would say, is unavoidable competition from EU countries. As the moderator mentioned earlier, EU countries are very strong here. For East Africa, the India is very strong here as well. So we are often at an unavoidable competition with them with regard to the market and also policies. So, and last, I would say that FAS Africa is here to help you navigate through all of these processes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scott. And well, you have heard from our two subject matter experts today, and we will now leave it open for anyone that may have any questions or comments regarding the two very, very fantastic presentations. So, Ms. Alice, please.
Yes, hi Desmond, and thank you everyone for your very informative presentations. We are open for Q&A, and we have sent a message to all participants to please enter their questions in the chat box. So let's give them a minute or two to see if we have any questions for this session.
Thank you, Ms. Alice. So while that is going on, let me just capture from both presentations what the essence of their presentation was. Very, very insightful. I was taking notes. So from Ms. Laura, we know that South Africa is the top 30 agricultural exporter. We also know that South Africa has 59 million, a population of 59 million, and they are a leader in biotech and science. South Africa's middle class is also 70% of the population. So they have the buying power for US goods. And that is very, very encouraging. And Laura has requested that she's open to receiving your calls. So contact FAS. They will help you with market research. And she advised that you have a relationship, you have a contact, and that's always key. And the good news is that South Africa's, South Africa has 11 official languages, but they speak English. So if the Chinese can make it, if the Asians can make it in South Africa, we from the United States can certainly make it, because we don't need anybody to translate for us. We can speak English directly with the South Africans when doing business. And from Mr. Scott, we learned that the East African market is also very robust. He highlighted two of the top markets in the EAC, which is Kenya and Tanzania. Kenya with a population of 53.8 million and 64 billion GDP, and Tanzania with a population of 60 million inhabitants. And so what I found fascinating was the 4 takeaways from Kenya, which is sensational in sports, sensational in sunshine. Hey, Scott, we also have Florida is the sunshine state, so don't let the Kenyans steal our sunshine from us. Safari, as well as the impressive mobile payments that even those in the rural areas are able to receive. M-Pesa has been one of the leading ways of mobile payments in the world. So those are the 4 sensational things to look forward to in Kenya. While in Tanzania, the 3 key things are the nuts, Tanzanite, and Safari. Alice, are we ready for any questions?
Yes, the only question we have received is we do have someone who would like to have Laura's email address. If she could share that again, please.
Sure. Can I just put it in the chat? Or...
Yes, please do.
Okay.
She will put in the chat, and I believe that with that, this wraps up this session. We do have another session that follows in like 2 minutes, so we need to set that up. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Desmond, Laura, and Ryan, and everyone who participated in this session. This session was recorded, so within 48 hours, we should be uploading it onto the platform for everyone to view. In case they missed it or would like a recap of what they just saw during this session. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.